Episode 31, The Twin Sphere. Ethan, how did you do that? Fred and George looked at Ethan, who was rubbing the dog's head. Their eyes almost popped out in surprise. Just now, the three-headed dog pounced on them, and George and Fred's barrier spell and repel spell did not bring any hindrance to the three-headed dog at all, just when the two sighed that their lives were over. But they found that things were not as they thought. The three-headed dog directly turned into a licking dog and prepared to lick Ethan with its tongue that was almost the size of a person, but was severely rejected by Ethan. It was too smelly, and Ethan didn't want to be contaminated with this kind of saliva. I have been liked by animals since I was a child. I didn't expect that I could make magical animals like this when I came to the wizarding world. As he said this, Ethan rubbed the dog's head hard again, causing the three-headed dog to purr with joy. It's incredible. If we didn't know that Hagrid's dog was raised by you, we would have thought that you raised it. That's right. If Hagrid knew that his dog was kidnapped by you one day, I wonder if he would cry out loud. He really loves this three-headed dog. Seeing that the three-headed dog was tamed by Ethan, George and Fred stopped shaking and even joked. I can't afford to raise this big guy. Ethan scratched Fluffy's chin and replied. You can tell how much it eats by looking at its size. This is Hogwarts, not the Muggle world. If it were the Muggle world, Ethan would naturally have no pressure to raise it, but in Hogwarts, Ethan would have no choice, unless he went to the Forbidden Forest to hunt. The rations in their own place are all from Voldemort's and winged demons. They don't eat much, and a meal can last a long time. Did the Sorting Hat say that Ethan can still enter Hufflepuff? Maybe we'll become the next Newt Scamander, the author of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and a legendary wizard. The brothers have heard a lot about the legend of Newt Scamander. Where there are precious magical animals, there is his figure. As long as he shows up, there is no magical animal that he can't handle. A suitcase can destroy a city. He is a man who is banned from entering by the Ministry of Magic of many countries. Ethan's ability to handle the three-headed dog is really like Scamander. Maybe Ethan is better than Scamander in this aspect. Hufflepuff, I am very optimistic about this college, hee. Ethan laughed and was ready to fool around. He had a connection with all three colleges, but he was missing Hufflepuff. By the way, what is this? George looked around and found that there was a movable door panel where the three-headed dog was lying before, and he was ready to go over to check it out immediately. Roar! The three-headed dog, which was lying obediently, suddenly raised its head and roared at George. Although he felt that Ethan was very kind and wanted to get close to him, Luwei still did not forget his mission. It was really too painful for the old man to beat the dog. As long as he dared to show his teeth, he would be beaten. Those 2 weeks were not a dog's life. He was still a baby who had just grown up. By the way, he also set a few rules for himself. The little wizard could not be hurt, but only scared. The big wizard must be bitten and not let go when he saw him. No one could enter the door below. For these rules, Luwei did not dare to violate them at all. George, who had just taken 2 steps, froze in place. When he slowly turned his head and saw that Luwei did not pounce on him, he was relieved. I won't go in, I'll be back soon. As George said this, he raised his hands and stepped back step by step. Fluvia should be following Dumbledore's orders to guard the things below. If we go down, it might turn hostile. Ethan looked at the 2 of them seriously. He hoped that they would stop here. If the 2 of them insisted on exploring the situation, they might attract Voldemort's attention, which would not be a good thing. We are not going down, and we are not curious about what is inside, really. Fred said with a wry smile. They just knew how dangerous the magical beast of XXXXX level was. Their magic had no effect at all. If they annoyed it, it might really be fed to the dog. Ethan shook his head helplessly. It was obvious that he was not sincere. It was worthy of being a Gryffindor. Ethan, since today's exploration has no results, why don't we withdraw? It was too stressful to be with Fluvia. They didn't want to stay here at all. Well, let's go. Luwei, I'll see you next time. After saying hello to Luwei, the 3 turned around and left. The moment they closed the door, Ethan clearly heard George and Fred sighing with relief. Ethan, it's a good thing you're here today, otherwise George and I would be in trouble. Walking in the long and narrow corridor, Fred recalled the scenes just now, and he really walked through the gates of hell. If he had listened to Ethan at the beginning and checked the situation before going in, it wouldn't be like this. Being brave is not reckless. Don't put yourself in danger. Ethan looked at Fred and said seriously, the twins' ending was not good. One lost an ear, and the other lost his life, which made many fans feel a little sad. I hope what happened today can remind them and make them more vigilant in the future. We know if Fred is so reckless again in the future, I will kick his A*** card. George hugged Fred and said to Ethan with a smile, but he seemed to have forgotten that he was the first to rush in. That's how it should be, Ethan said with a smile. Ethan, this is for you. Fred took out a piece of parchment from his pocket, which was the Marauder's map. This is the guarantee for your night tour. Ethan did not take it, but asked curiously. This thing is very useful in Hogwarts. Fred said confidently, we dare say that there are few people who are more familiar with Hogwarts than us. We know all the secret passages and paths. Even if we don't have it now, Filch can't catch us. And aren't you going to the 8th floor? You will definitely need it later. The password was in the abandoned classroom before. You saw us use, I solemnly swear that I am not doing anything bad. Having said this, Ethan didn't pretend and directly accepted the Marauder's map. Episode 32, The Room of Requests. After separating from Fred and George, Ethan came to the 8th floor of Hogwarts Castle alone, opposite the tapestry of the troll hitting Barnabas. He walked back and forth 3 times in front of this wall and silently said in his heart, I need a place to hide things. Just when Ethan stopped, a smooth door appeared on the wall out of thin air. Without any hesitation, Ethan flashed and got in. As Ethan entered, the door began to become shallow and then disappeared without a trace. From the outside, it was quiet here, as if nothing had happened. And Ethan, who entered, found that this place was particularly large and messy, like a utility room, with all kinds of things. After a simple tour, Ethan realized that he might have made a lot of money this time. In the past 1,000 years of Hogwarts, I don't know how many students have hidden things here. It is undeniable that there are a lot of waste here, but there are also a lot of valuables. I just don't know why they didn't take away their collections. On the bookshelf beside the wall, Ethan found thousands of books scattered on the ground, some neatly stacked and some scattered on the ground. Under the protection of magic, they did not decay. It is very likely that they were hidden by the students of Ravenclaw. Ethan also had some guesses as to why they were hidden. Ravenclaw literally means the claws of ravens, which means greedy plunderers, and implicitly means the extreme thirst for knowledge. They often do whatever it takes to achieve their goals, which can be seen from the 2 graduates, Quirrell and Lockhart. One dedicated himself to Voldemort for knowledge and power, and the other plundered others' knowledge for honor and money. And these books can basically be said to be either banned books or those obtained by irregular means, which are extremely valuable. Open the box with the Traceless Expansion spell, and use the Flying spell to collect the books one by one. If you want to organize them, you can only wait until you have time. Next, it was Ethan's treasure hunt time. There were strange alchemical props that he couldn't understand, ornaments that were not sure whether they were pure gold or gold-plated, and jewelry made of gold galleons and silver sickles. There was even more than one potion counter, with a lot of bottles and jars filled with things. Those things soaked in unknown liquids were not sure whether they had expired. In addition, Ethan also found dozens of flying brooms. Except for the latest models, there were all kinds of other ones. I just don't know if there are wizards in the wizarding world who collect these antiques. Quidditch became popular in Ireland in the 14th century, and flying brooms would have been earlier. Crash! Because of the noise caused by Ethan, a series of small things suddenly jumped out from a small mountain of old tables, chairs, and benches. Iron blue skin, about 8 inches tall, flying in the air and emitting extremely harsh chirping sounds. Ethan recognized this thing, a Cornish elf. A naughty little thing that likes to play pranks. I just don't know who hid this thing here, and what have they eaten for so long? Why haven't they starved to death? Ethan originally didn't intend to pay attention, but this thing is too noisy. It's time for a snack. He took out the eggs that the winged demon had shrunk into from his pocket and threw them directly into the air. With a sharp whistle, the winged demon restored its original posture and left a trail of afterimages in the air. Now these Cornish elves screamed and hid everywhere as if they had encountered a natural enemy, but it was all in vain when they encountered the winged demon that crushed it in terms of size, strength, and speed. From time to time, the bodies of Cornish elves fell from the air, and even those Cornish elves that drilled into the gaps were knocked away by the winged demon in a savage manner and rushed over to eat its brain. Ethan didn't want to waste these bodies, so he summoned the bats from the pendant to devour them. Finally, after feeding them a few energy cubes, he put them away. The main material of the energy cubes eaten by the winged demon is dragon blood, while the main material of the Voldemort is the bones of the Thestrals, so that during this period of time, both their status and size have been greatly improved. Without the interference of the Cornish elves, Ethan continued to collect the goods and put the ones he liked into the box. Until he stopped at a table, the box under the hemp rope should be filled with the crown of Ravenclaw. Ethan still remembered the scene. Opening the box, there was a gorgeous crown made of gold, like an eagle with spread wings, with a dim gem inlaid in the middle, lying in it, which was also the symbol of Ravenclaw College. Legend has it that because Rowena Ravenclaw cast a spell on it, wearing it can increase wisdom, but Ethan dare not try it now. Voldemort made this thing into a Horcrux, although it will not affect the person holding it. But who knows if there will be any accidents after wearing it. After all, this is already an extremely evil black magic prop. Ethan was not ready to destroy the Horcruxes now. When they were destroyed, Voldemort would sense it, especially since he was in Hogwarts now. When the diadem was destroyed, Voldemort almost went crazy. At that time, he only had Nagini as a Horcrux, so he put it in his sleeve and carefully protected it. I have collected most of the things I am interested in. The remaining things are some wild boar statues, old crucibles, broken tables, chairs, and benches. He kept his eyes on the panel. Since entering the room of requirement, he has been blinking. Wishes are granted. Please make a wish. I will satisfy you, but everything has a price. Are you ready? Achievement goal. Enter the room of requirement, 1/1. Achievement reward, a random ancient magic. Thief. That shameless guy, put down my baby. Achievement goal, steal an item, 1/1. Achievement reward, a random magic. Thief saint. Don't go without courtesy, don't be greedy without money, but you are the opposite. Achievement goal, steal items without being discovered by anyone, 100 out of 100. Achievement reward, a random black magic. Complete 3 achievements in one go, plus the one for the night tour. Today is 4 achievements. It's only been 2 days since I came to Hogwarts, and there are so many things to do. As Ethan received the information, he also understood the role of these 3 magics. The first is the ancient magic, the magic of the early Middle Ages when the Baltic coast was ravaged by Vikings, Mjolnir. The ability is simple and crude, using a lightning hammer to hit the opponent, with a wide range, large area, and strong power, but it consumes a lot of magic power. When receiving the message, I also gained some use of ancient magic words, that is, runes. The remaining 2 magics are not so satisfactory. Marking appears, it can be ignited on an object and burn into the desired shape, used as a mark or attack. The germination spell is a curse-type spell that is cast silently, but requires a part of the opponent's body tissue, such as hair or skin fragments. After casting, a tumor will grow on the opponent's body. The tumor will absorb magic power and grow at an extremely fast speed until it drains the wizard dry. See Episode 33, Defense Against the Dark Arts. Ethan, get up. Terry looked at Ethan, who was still lying in bed today, a little confused. You got up early yesterday to flirt with a senior, but not today? Got it. Ethan replied dazedly, and then opened his eyes with difficulty. It was already past 5 o'clock when I returned to the dormitory today, and it was only 8 o'clock now. It was impossible to rest well in such a short time. It would be better not to sleep. I am even more sleepy now after sleeping for such a short time. What did you do last night? Jean looked at Ethan, who was listless, and asked curiously. Nothing, insomnia. Ethan made up a random excuse. He couldn't say that he went on a night tour, stole the collection accumulated by Hogwarts students for thousands of years, and finally went to the potion classroom to get a textbook of advanced potion making. Ethan had this book, but Snape's book had many of his own revisions to the textbook content, and also recorded several black magic. At that time, I thought that since I had already taken so many things, Snape wouldn't be a big deal, so I went there for some reason, which was considered to be a chance for Harry. The class later is Defense Against the Dark Arts. I heard from the senior that the teacher of this class changes every year. Some of them have problems before they finish teaching for a year. I don't know if it's true. Ethan went to wash up, and Terry and a few others chatted on the side. He was a talkative and outgoing person. He talked with a more talkative senior for a long time yesterday and learned a lot of gossip. It's true. I also heard that a mysterious person cursed the Defense Against the Dark Arts department. Jean nodded and confirmed Terry's statement. He was from a wizard family and lived in a wizard gathering place, so he knew some of the news. In that case, I don't know why Professor Quirrell would be so desperate to teach defense against the dark arts. He was originally teaching Muggle studies. This was also what the senior told Terry, and the senior looked regretful at the time. Quirrell is also from Ravenclaw. Although Muggle Studies is an elective course and not many people take it, Quirrell teaches well and is quite popular among Ravenclaws. Quirrell's class. Ethan, who came back from washing up, shook his head. This thing is a complete waste of time. Quirrell's level is still there, but he can't teach and can't teach. It feels like Dumbledore is crazy. None of the professors he found for the defense against the dark arts class is normal. Even if Lupin taught something, he is a werewolf and is destined to not teach for long. The importance of this course is even higher than that of potions and herbology, and it is on par with transfiguration and charms. It is completely about the ability of wizards to protect themselves, especially for those half-blood or Muggle-born wizards. In fact, the defense against the dark arts class can be stopped, and another course can be opened, called self-defense or something, so that the reputation of the defense against the dark arts professor being a consumable can be eliminated and a normal professor can be recruited. Dumbledore should take the blame for the defense against the dark arts professors who were either disabled or disabled because of this, and the young wizards who didn't learn any skills. After all, he is the headmaster. Are you waiting for me to have breakfast together? Following his roommates to the common room, Ethan saw Penelope at a glance and immediately greeted her with a smile. There were more people in the common room at this time than at 7 o'clock yesterday morning, but most of them were seniors, that is, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. Although the young Ravenlaw wizards in the lower grades were studious, they were not so studious. Only young wizards facing 2 exams could do so under pressure. Yes, I was waiting for you, and I waited for a long time, but you didn't seem to wake up yet. Penelope didn't show any shyness or retreat, but stepped forward to look at Ethan. Tell me what you did last night? I'm the class leader of Ravenclaw, responsible for supervising you. If I catch you doing something bad, haha. On the spiral staircase, Penelope acted like a stern female senior. You really have insomnia. What bad things can I do? Ethan spread his hands and acted innocent. Okay, don't let me catch you. Penelope threatened with gritted teeth. The 3 roommates were hanging behind and whispering, not daring to come forward at all. Penelope was the class leader, and she was usually serious. They didn't dare to talk and laugh with her like Ethan. After breakfast in the hall, Penelope also had to go to the ancient magic class. Although she didn't choose all subjects like Hermione, it was almost the same. Only divination and arithmetic divination, 2 subjects that she was completely uninterested in and had no help, chose to give up, so her courses were quite full. Do you smell anything? Garlic, I smell garlic, and it's very strong. At the door of the defense against the dark arts classroom, Terry said to Jean with a look of certainty. His family still likes to eat garlic, but they won't make the house smell so much garlic. Walking into the classroom, Ethan could clearly see some classmates who had already arrived, and their faces were quite ugly at the moment. Bubble head protection. Ethan pointed his wand at his head, and immediately a big bubble wrapped Ethan's head, looking like a fish tank on Ethan's head. This is comfortable, and Ethan also understands the happiness of the celestial dragons. The bubble head spell, a simple and practical little spell, Ethan learned it when flipping through a book. It was originally used to go into the water, but it can also isolate the surrounding dirty air. However, for people with bad breath, the air in this bubble will become unsuitable for breathing after 30 minutes. Give me one. Michael, who usually doesn't talk much, couldn't hold it anymore and asked Ethan directly. Ethan naturally would not refuse and cast a head bubble spell on each of them. Soon, Hufflepuff's little badger and Gryffindor's little lions could not stand it anymore and lined up to let Ethan cast a head bubble spell on them. Later, the Slytherins also came over. This class lasted for an hour, and they did not want to endure such a long event. And they found a reason for themselves. This was not that we Slytherins were asking for help from the outer courtyard, but for the sake of being in the group. Students from other colleges were wearing goldfish bowls on their heads to class, but we Slytherins did not. Doesn't this make us look very different? Cassandra came to Ethan with a visibly depressed face. She did not expect that she would lose again before class. This was a spell for the 4th grade. What on earth did he learn? Fortunately, the head bubble spell was just a simple regular spell that did not consume much magic power. Moreover, after using it so many times, Ethan could cast it silently. When the bell rang, Quirrell was obviously shocked when he came to the classroom. What was going on? Even if I have some smell here, you guys shouldn't. But he was still that idiot after all. He said nothing and just picked up the textbook and started reading. There was no communication or explanation throughout the whole process. Even if a student raised his hand to ask a question, he ignored it. Ethan directly put Dark Power, Self-Defense Guide on the table, covered his head and started to rest. Anyway, Quirrell's class is a waste of time. You read from the textbook. What do I need you for? You might as well read it yourself when you have time. Thanks to the big brother Seraphine? And the confused kitten for the monthly ticket, thank you very much. Episode 34. The beginning of Seamus's explosive genius career. Clean it up. As soon as he left the defense against the dark arts classroom, Ethan cast a cleaning spell on himself. Having stayed in the room full of garlic for so long, it had already been marinated. This not only cleans the surface stains, but also removes the smell. After casting a spell on a few roommates and familiar little wizards, Ethan left. It was time for get out of class to end, so he could go back to the dormitory to change clothes or find seniors to cast spells. Next was the spell class, which was on the 3rd floor of Hogwarts. The first thing that caught his eye when he entered the spell class classroom was the front window, where a lot of books were stacked in a staircase shape. As for the reason, those who understand it all know it. The content of this class is the illumination spell. After Professor Flitwick explained and introduced it on the desk, he let the little wizards practice it by themselves. This is the most basic spell. It can be said that as long as it is a squib, it can be quickly mastered. Those who want to experiment with magic after getting the textbooks often choose the illumination spell first. With the fluorescent flickering coming and going, the classroom was like a lamp with different brightness, and some of them were unstable and flickered. Of course, there were also some who had no reaction at all. After all, not every little wizard would look at the textbook in advance, or have talent. Faced with this situation, it was not easy for Professor Flitwick to add points. Could it be that all 4 colleges would add points? After all, including Hufflepuff, there were some who succeeded in one try, and Ravenclaw had the most. This was considered to give Professor Flitwick some face. Think about what I just said, don't panic, keep steady. Professor Flitwick ran back and forth with his short legs below, reminding the little wizards one by one. Thanks to his reminder, more and more little wizards were able to successfully release the complete lighting spell. Ethan also knew why Professor Flitwick had such a good reputation in Hogwarts. He was serious, responsible, and patient. He would not be as cold-faced as Professor McGonagall, and he would not be like Snape, who seemed to owe him money. Read the spell correctly and articulate it clearly. Don't panic. Try again. Ethan saw Professor Flitwick stop in front of a little Gryffindor wizard. Upon closer inspection, it was Seamus. Ethan immediately felt that something bad was going to happen. If this guy had a panel, he would definitely see that he had the talent, explosion mastery. There was a chance of explosion when using any spell, and the power of the explosion spell was increased when using it. Lumos. Seamus took a deep breath and raised the wand in his hand high, as if he was raising a magic wand. It's on, it's on. Neville, who was sitting in front of Seamus, shouted excitedly. The two of them were the type of brothers who had no reaction just now. Now that Seamus has succeeded, will he be the next one? Don't get excited, control your magic, and try harder. Professor Flitwick warned immediately when he saw that the magic was about to go out. Seamus nodded seriously and raised the wand in his hand. In an instant, the light on the wand lit up quickly at a speed visible to the naked eye. If it was a 5-watt bulb at the beginning, it would have soared to at least 80 now. Ethan immediately felt bad. Close your eyes. He shouted to the little eagles around him, and they immediately closed their eyes, turned around, and lowered their heads in one go. Just after Ethan made the move, the dazzling light enveloped the entire classroom, and the roar of the explosion continued to echo in the classroom. Although the noise and flash brought by this sudden explosion did not last long, the effect was indeed very impressive. At least now the whole classroom is in chaos, with screaming and pushing little wizards everywhere. When Professor Flitwick was teaching Seamus just now, many students were watching their situation, wanting to learn some experience from it, so that when the strong light burst out, they were directly covered in their faces, and their eyes were blinded. Although the other little wizards were better, they also felt extremely uncomfortable in their eyes and ears in the strong light and explosion. In the center of the explosion, several little wizards from Gryffindor had black faces, and their hair curled up like they were burned by fire. Fortunately, Professor Flitwick could only stand under the table because of his height and was not affected by the explosion, but he was also blinded by the strong light and his ears were temporarily deaf. What happened? Terry, whose vision was a little blurred, had a blank face and didn't know what happened. He was just chatting with Jean. When he heard Ethan shouting to close his eyes, he saw Jean closed his eyes, and he also followed him urgently. Seamus Finnegan's magic exploded. Ethan explained helplessly, this was completely a low-profile version of the flash bomb. If the noise was harsher and the flash was stronger, it would be more authentic. After all, flash bombs can not only blind people, but also make people nearby dizzy. Everyone, sit down in your seats, don't panic, you will recover soon. Professor Flitwick used magic to float himself in the air, and then used the amplification spell to loudly project the sound to the entire classroom. He knew deeply what the consequences would be if the eyes could not see and there was chaos. There has been a teaching accident, and he can't expand this accident. As a dual champion, I really lost my face this time. I didn't react. I am really old. Ethan could clearly see that Professor Flitwick closed his eyes tightly, and there were 2 lines of tears falling from the corners of his eyes. Obviously, he was not having a good time at the moment. Seeing this, Ethan could only go with a few classmates who listened to Ethan in time and some lucky ones to comfort the panicked students, press those who were running around in their seats, and help those who fell up. Gryffindor and Hufflepuff were the worst hit this time. Cassandra was fine, but Hermione was lying on the table. Obviously, she was hit. After almost 10 minutes, the sequelae of the super-strong lighting spell slowly subsided, and everyone regained some sight. After such an accident, Professor Flitwick naturally couldn't continue teaching, and could only let the students take a break. And remember the name of Seamus Finnegan deeply. Only Ethan knew that this was just the beginning of Seamus' explosive career. During the Battle of Hogwarts, facing the invasion of the Death Eaters, Neville wanted to blow up the bridge, and Professor McGonagall asked him to discuss it with Seamus Finnegan. It can be seen from this that in his 7 years at Hogwarts, how many explosions Seamus caused in total, and what a deep impression he left on these professors. Episode 35, Need to Pay Extra. Due to a teaching accident in the spells class, the afternoon flying class was cancelled. Although Seamus's flashing spell had almost worn off, some young wizards still felt that everything they saw was blurry, so it was naturally not suitable for flying classes. This also allowed the first-year wizards to rest this afternoon. After lunch, Ethan came to the long table of Gryffindor, greeted the twins, and sat down next to Hermione. Why do you come to my place when you don't go to find your senior sister? Swallowing the food in her mouth, Hermione glanced at Ethan and said unhappily, Why should I go to find my senior sister? Ethan was a little confused. What did Hermione say? This, isn't it? Haven't you been eating with your senior sister these 2 days? And talking and laughing. Hermione reacted and seemed to have said something wrong, but she could only say so. I'm from Ravenclaw Academy. Is there anything wrong with eating with Ravenclaw students? Ethan immediately retorted. It didn't matter in front of his roommate, but he couldn't ruin his image in the little witch's heart. No problem. Hermione was a little lacking in confidence. She wanted to refute but didn't know what to say. Then why did you make me cry and lose face when we just met? Thinking of this, Hermione was unhappy. She was talking and laughing happily with her senior, but she made herself cry when it came to her. I want to tell you that there are people who are better than you. You can't be too proud. Will you study harder and become better in the future? Ethan preached to her with a look of doing it for your own good. That's right. Hermione thought about it and it was true, but she quickly asked, Why do you call me big front teeth again? Big front teeth are her lifelong pain. As a dentist's daughter, she still cares about teeth, but her front teeth are bigger than most people, which makes her very reluctant to be mentioned. Just tell me if your front teeth are big. I say this so that you can remember me, remember? Is it true that you can't forget it after seeing it once? After a while of questions, Hermione fell into a state of contemplation and laughed from time to time. Ethan has already talked with Harry and Ronald, mainly Ronald. Ethan, don't you know? Scabbers is my family. This is 3 Sika a day, you have to think about it. The first wand is 7 Galleons, and an owl is 20 gold Galleons. Don't you want it? Ethan, who knows Ronald's weakness, continues to seduce Ronald. The Weasley family has too many children and basically no pocket money. The older ones and the only daughter Ginny are fine. They have new wands, books, and wizard robes. But Ronald, the youngest son, has everything old. Do you think he doesn't want these? Scabbers has lived in my house for 10 years, and now he sleeps in the same bed with me. I regard him as my younger brother. Do you still care about this? I've already said that I won't cause any harm to Scabbers. I'll give you the same thing as you gave me. This is like a free sickle. Ethan looked incredulous, as if he had misunderstood Ronald. Ethan, you misunderstood. Scabbers is my brother. Get the price. Ronald looked at Ethan with a look of grief. Finally, the deal was reached. Ethan successfully rented Scabbers for 2 gold galleons a week, which is 34 sickles a week. Ronald was very satisfied with this. 2 gold galleons. At the age of 11, he couldn't save 2 gold galleons even if he lived frugally. As soon as the deal was reached, Ronald personally went to the Gryffindor dormitory to catch Scabbers and handed him to Ethan, fearing that Ethan would regret it. The rats were in the shop in Diagon Alley. 1 gold galleon could fill a cage. They were not magical animals. They were just used for experiments or as live food. Only Hogwarts didn't sell it, so he got a bargain. That's it, I'll return Scabbers to you next week. Ethan carried Peter Pettigrew in a cage, said hello to a few people, and prepared to retreat. Ethan, be careful. Although I don't know what experiment you want to use Scabbers for, it has lived for 10 years and is very old. Don't toss it too hard. Before leaving, Ronald also reminded him specifically. Ronald cares about Scabbers, which is his own thing, but it was just given to him by Percy, and the two sides don't have much deep feelings at all. What is this little bit of affection in front of 2 gold galleons? If it can be added a little more, let alone Scabbers, even if it is for himself to do experiments. On the other side, Ethan directly carried Scabbers to the 8th floor and entered the room of requirement. The moment he entered the room of requirement, Scabbers struggled very impatiently and frantically in the cage. He already knew where this place was, and there would definitely be no good things next. When Ronald handed him to Ethan, he felt something was wrong, but what else could a mouse do besides running and biting people? The fate was doomed when he was put into the cage. After dumping Banban out of the cage, Ethan cast a spell casually. Crucio. Although there are other magics that can remove the animagus form, they are not as convenient and quick as the Cruciatus Curse. The mouse, which was originally quite energetic and looking for an escape route, fell down suddenly, rolling on the ground and wailing. It never thought that a first-year wizard would know the unforgivable curse, dare to use it openly, and be so cruel to use it on a little mouse. Is it because I can't keep up with the times? Are young wizards so fierce these days? You can bear it. Ethan sneered, and then threw another Cruciatus Curse. This time, the mouse was foaming at the mouth, but the effect was also on him. The severe pain made him almost faint, and he could no longer maintain the animagus form. The rat's body began to twist, and eventually turned into a short, fat, and bald middle-aged man with small eyes, gray hair, a pointed nose, and dirty clothes. He really looked like a fat rat that had turned into a spirit. But his condition was not very good at the moment. He lay on the ground half dead, struggling for a long time, but couldn't get up. Episode 36, Greedy Predators. What do you want to do? Peter sat up after regaining some strength, his voice trembling. Peter was sure that he had only met Ethan once, on the Hogwarts Express, but he seemed to know him. Why was that? Peter was a little confused. Even his mother didn't know that he was an illegal Argus. Now only Sirius and Lupin knew that they were still alive. Could it be them? I haven't heard of Sirius's release from prison recently, so it must be Lupin. But he is a werewolf, this is. Peter thought a lot at once. I'm just asking for a favor, Ethan said with a smile. Peter Pettigrew, although he doesn't look good, he's not very courageous, and his animagus form is not impressive, but his strength is still good. Compared with the 4 headmasters of Hogwarts, he is definitely not as good, but he is also a strong man at the bottom. It can be said that none of the 4 marauders are weak. Even though Sirius has been imprisoned for more than 10 years, Peter has been a rat for more than 10 years, and Lupin has been wandering for more than 10 years. Once they start fighting, they are still very capable. They are all elites in their respective camps. But all 4 of them died in the end, and they were all related to Harry, and Snape, the enemy of the 4, was also dead. I don't know if they will fight again down there. Is this how you ask for help? Peter panted and stared at Ethan cautiously. He couldn't see through the little wizard in front of him. He was more skilled in using the Cruciatus Curse than himself, and he could cast spells without a wand. Until now, he hadn't even taken out his wand. God, this was a little wizard who entered school with Ronald. Then how do you want me to ask you? Ethan looked at Peter with cold eyes. What do you want me to do? As long as you say it, I will do it. For the safety of his life, Peter could only admit defeat. Even if he had a wand in his hand, he probably couldn't beat this little wizard who could cast the unforgivable curse without a wand, not to mention that he didn't have a wand now. He was very timid. It was his own request that he was assigned to Gryffindor. He wanted to be brave. He joined James and others to bully others because he didn't want to be the one being bullied. He joined Voldemort because Voldemort was powerful at that time and had a greater chance of winning. He made this choice for his own safety. Now, with his life threatened, he could also join without hesitation. Do you know the fiery curse? This was one of Ethan's goals today. He wanted to learn it a long time ago, but the three idiots in Nocturne Alley didn't know it. The fiery curse is definitely one of the strongest black magics. The released fiery fire can continuously burn all objects that can be burned, including invisible objects, that is, souls, and can also mimic the form of some monsters. It cannot be extinguished by water unless the 10,000 curses are used. The only disadvantage is that it is extremely difficult to control. If you are not careful, it is easy to be backfired. But Ethan now has the talent of fire affinity, so naturally there is no such problem. It can be said that if you want to become stronger, the fiery curse is one of the most suitable magics at this moment. Yes! Peter Pettigrew nodded decisively. When he secretly joined Voldemort, he collected a lot of black magic and practiced it in private. The fiery spell was one of them. However, he didn't dare to use it after it was released once and almost burned himself to death because it was difficult to control. What about the fire guard? Grindelwald's gas stove magic is also very powerful and suitable for Ethan. In the description, it almost destroyed Paris, and it made all the Aurors helpless. This shows its power. It burned without Nicholas Flamel. It's just that it is blue in the movie, but it is actually black. In the movie, it is to distinguish it from the black background. No, Peter didn't dare to lie to Ethan. He had heard of the fire guard, but he really didn't collect it. Then write down your understanding of transfiguration, your experience of transforming into Animagus, and the spells, alchemy, and potions you know. This is the real reason why Ethan captured Peter. He wanted the knowledge in his mind. There are only 7 Animagus in the open in this era, including Professor McGonagall. The only known illegal Animagus are Rita Skeeter's beetle, Sirius's black dog, Peter's mouse, and James's death. There must be others, but not many. In any case, this is definitely a high-end skill. Professor McGonagall will definitely not teach it in the next few years. At least she will consider it after the 5th year when she has a high enough level. This magic is too risky. Once the transformation fails, it is irreversible. Peter is definitely not as good as McGonagall in other experience of transfiguration, but in terms of Animagus, maybe this trio knows more thoroughly than Professor McGonagall, otherwise it is impossible for all 3 brothers to succeed. Moreover, with the relationship between the 4 people at that time, they would not hide anything from each other. If one person knew it, he would definitely tell others. All? Peter felt a headache. He knew a lot of things. How long would it take to write it? All. Bang. Ethan snapped his fingers, and Peter's eyes immediately became dull. It would be safer to use the Imperious Curse now, which would not affect his memory and prevent him from tripping Ethan up during the writing process. The desk, paper, and quill were all ready. At Ethan's request, Peter quickly sat on the table and wrote furiously. The Imperious Curse, Ethan had experimented with it during the summer vacation, can last up to 148 hours or 7 days. For Peter, he only needs to come back and cast it once every few days. After squeezing out the value, Ethan will abide by his agreement with Ronald and return it to him. After all, in addition to the Goldfinger, the familiarity of the plot is also a big advantage for the time traveler. Without Peter, who knows when and how Voldemort will choose to resurrect, and the final impact is completely unknown. Episode 37, Snape's Ulterior Motives. Friday morning was potions class. No one dared to be late for this class, and everyone arrived early, especially the little lions of Gryffindor, who looked miserable as if their mother had died. But Ethan didn't care, since he was a Ravenclaw and had no grudge against Snape. Bang! The class was about to start, and the door of the classroom was suddenly pushed open. Professor Snape walked in from the door, and, because he walked too fast, the black cloak behind him fluttered and made a whoosh sound. No wonder he was called the Old Bat, and he looked like one. Like most professors, the first thing Professor Snape did was to call the roll. Except for a pause on Harry's name, he was as cold as a robot. The low voice, combined with the dark basement and the specimens soaked in bottles and jars around, made the atmosphere of the whole classroom extremely depressing. Except for the sound of here, the little wizards didn't dare to breathe during the whole process. You are here to learn the precise science and strict craftsmanship of preparing this potion. Since there is no foolish waving of wands here, many of you will not believe that this is magic. I do not expect you to truly appreciate the beauty of the simmering crucible with white smoke and bursts of fragrance. You will not truly understand the magical power of the liquid flowing into people's veins, which makes people excited and confused. I can teach you how to improve your reputation, brew glory, and even prevent death, but there must be one thing, that is, you are not the kind of idiots I often meet. The extremely infectious opening remarks infinitely raised the level of the potion. Even the Philosopher's Stone cannot prevent death, it can only extend life, but the body will be extremely fragile under the decay of time, let alone saving the dead. In the end, Snape is painting a pie in the sky. Scanning the wizards below, Snape's eyes were fixed in one direction. I would like to reiterate that there may be someone in Hogwarts who is so confident that he can skip my class because of his fame. The more he spoke, the more murderous Snape's eyes became. Ronald, who was sitting next to Harry, was stunned at this moment. He had already sensed the problem. Harry was still writing his own things, but he didn't dare to move. Snape walked in front of Harry and looked down at him. "Mr. Potter." Harry shuddered when he heard his name suddenly, and hurriedly raised his head to see Snape's eyes without any emotion. And Harry had an illusion that Snape seemed to dig out his eyes. "Mr. Potter, a celebrity of the new generation. What will I get if I add narcissus root powder to wormwood infusion?" This is definitely one of the most hidden hints, representing Snape's confession. The flower language of daffodils is love, and the flower language of wormwood is pain. Love and pain are self-evident. Snape's love is Lily, which means that Snape is extremely distressed by Lily's death. Ethan watched the scene with interest. Snape confessed to Lily's son, but her son didn't understand at all. And this content is not for the first grade, but from the 6th grade textbook, and it is specially prepared for Harry. Seeing Harry shook his head, Snape snorted coldly, "You don't know." Hermione, who was sitting not far from Harry, raised her hand high. In the past, she was suppressed by Ethan and Cassandra in class. Now she finally found an opportunity, and she was unwilling to let it go. She had previewed all this knowledge in advance. But Snape's eyes were not on her at all. He only had Harry in his eyes. Then, let's change the question. If I ask you to find me a piece of fecal stone, where would you find it? Here it comes again. Fecal stones are detoxifying. The link above is, how to solve my pain. I don't know, sir. Hermione raised her hands and trembled, but Snape still ignored it. What is the difference between Aconitum niviculatum and Aconitum camejasum? There are several flower languages of Wolfsbane, one of which is to live for love. There are too many private affairs mixed in. I don't know. Harry was very unhappy at the moment. When he first met in the hall, he felt that Snape didn't like him. Now he was even more certain of this. He was deliberately looking for trouble and immediately said dissatisfiedly, "Hermione knows the answer, why don't you ask her?" At this moment, Hermione stood up with her hands raised to answer the question. "Sit down." Snape shouted angrily. He didn't need people who acted on their own in his class. Suddenly, Snape turned his head and stared at Ethan. "Mr. Adrian, answer my question just now. My father didn't steal your wife, why is he targeting me?" According to Snape's character, even if the students from the outer courtyard answered correctly, they would not get extra points. It was a thankless task. But Ethan still stood up reluctantly. Narcissus root powder and wormwood extract can be used together to make life and death water. Fecal stones can be found in the stomach of goats and have a strong detoxification effect. Aconitum niviculatum and Aconitum camejasminoides are a kind of plant, collectively known as aconitum. The answer is correct, but I want to tell you, if you look at me like that again, I will knock your eyes out. Sit down now. Also, Mr. Potter, because of your ignorance, Gryffindor will lose 5 points. Snape's eyes without any emotion scanned the two of them. Ethan sat down with an unhappy look on his face. It was wrong to watch the fun. Who made you mix in too many private things, and it was discovered? You deserve to lose your wife and be bullied. Harry's eyes were also flashing with anger, but Snape didn't care about it at all. After glancing around, he said coldly, "Why didn't you write down the answer just now?" At this moment, Ethan felt a pair of eyes staring at him, and he looked over and saw that it was Hermione. Isn't he thinking that he stole her chance? Ethan could only spread his hands helplessly. He didn't want to do it, and except for Slytherin students, other students would not get extra points if they answered correctly, but they would still get deducted points. Unless Harry was a girl, then he would get extra points even if he answered incorrectly. Aren't honesty and courage reasons? As long as Snape wanted, he could find them. It's a pity that Harry was a boy, and he looked like James. Are you two flirting in class? Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, 5 points each. Snape, who had a view of the entire classroom, naturally saw all this. He couldn't stand the interaction between men and women, and it was in his class. Episode 38, BAFE Brain Refresher. What we need to make today is a potion for treating boils, which has nothing to do with the questions Snape asked just now. Work in pairs. The required materials and steps are all written on the blackboard. The steps are a little different from the textbook, but the whole process doesn't feel difficult. During the summer vacation, Ethan also read a lot of books on potions, but he only made energy cubes, which was a necessity. He didn't try other potions. First of all, the materials are more diverse, time-consuming, and more importantly, they are useless. Ethan and Michael work in pairs, with clear division of labor. Ethan handles snake fangs and porcupine quills, while Michael is assigned slugs with tentacles and dry nettles. Add 6 venomous snake quills to the mortar and grind them into very fine powder with a pestle. Cut the porcupine quills into segments of about 3 centimeters. These steps are written on the blackboard. Ethan completes them in an orderly manner, and Michael has no problem. Professor Snape drags his black cloak and walks back and forth in the classroom corridor. He is responsible for the young wizards here. Danger may occur in the process of brewing potions. One careless mistake will lead to teaching accidents. Everything that happened in Flitwick's spells class a few days ago is still vivid in his mind. He doesn't want to be the next one. Finn Fletchley, is your brain suitable for the same model as the troll? Let go of your hands. Porcupine quills don't need to be ground into powder. Zabini, did you not bring your brain to class, or did you not bring your eyes? It clearly says that slugs should be steamed, not burned. It can be said that wherever Snape goes, chaos occurs. It is really because of Snape's reputation, the low pressure he carries, and the scolding he does all the way. No young wizard is not nervous wherever he goes. In this case, mistakes are increasing. I originally thought that you are not all mediocre. There will always be 1 or 2 decent guys. I didn't expect that you are all fools and idiots. After a circle, Snape returned to the stage with a dark face. After a pause, he added, "You can be said to be the worst class I have ever taught." Ethan almost collapsed. It seems that not only teachers in the Muggle world like to say this, but also in the wizarding world. Now all the materials that need to be processed have been processed and have been boiled. Most of this process was done by Michael, and Ethan was just assisting on the side. It can be seen that he is quite talented in potions. On the other side, Snape, who returned to the students and patrolled back and forth, had walked to the position of Cassandra and her group. Looking at the pink smoke, the potion changed from turbid to azure blue, and his face looked better. He immediately lowered his head, fanned the smell above the potion with his hand, and sniffed it. Charming smell of rotten eggs. Slytherin, add 20 points. The moment he stood up, Professor Snape announced to everyone. Looking at Ethan over there, he could clearly see Cassandra's provocative eyes. Ethan knew Cassandra's intentions when they met on the Hogwarts Express. He was very proud and wanted to be the first in everything, but he was also very arrogant. If Ethan wanted to make this potion to treat boils, he would definitely be faster than now. It was really not difficult. Although Michael's steps were correct, he was too cautious, which slowed him down a bit. But it didn't matter. He was almost done. Zizi. Bang. Right behind Snape, a teaching accident still happened. Neville and Seamus were in the same group. Due to a mistake in the steps, the potion liquid boiled and splashed, and even the crucible was burned and deformed, and finally Neville overturned it in a panic. The first to bear the brunt were Neville himself and Professor Snape, who was facing away in the aisle next to him. Snape had never expected such a step. Not only did he make a mistake, but he also overturned the crucible. The classroom was also in chaos. Because the wrongly brewed potion was extremely corrosive, the surrounding young wizards had to stand on stools, and Neville was covered with red and swollen boils because he was drenched by the potion. He had already screamed in pain. Professor Snape's legs were also soaked by the liquid medicine, but he couldn't show it at the moment. He endured the pain and used his wand to clean the liquid medicine on the ground, and then roared at Neville. "Idiot! I think you probably put the porcupine quills in without taking the crucible off the fire, right? Neville was crying so hard that he couldn't speak, and even a boil had grown on his face. An accident happened, and the culprit was so miserable that Professor Snape couldn't say anything more or punish him. He could only let his partner Seamus send him to the school hospital. In fact, Snape should be thankful that Neville got the steps wrong and brought this disaster forward. If Seamus had come, it wouldn't be a problem. The crucible might have exploded and everyone in the classroom would have suffered. In the end, Snape blamed Harry for not reminding Neville, and Gryffindor was deducted 5 points. Harry gritted his teeth as he listened to all this, but dared not refute. However, his prejudice against Snape grew stronger. Ethan was not affected. After all, he was still a little far away. He moved the crucible away from the flame, extinguished the alcohol lamp, added the porcupine quills, and stirred it clockwise for 5 times. As pink smoke rose, Ethan's work was also completed. At the same time, Ethan completed another achievement. Potion. The liquid that makes people excited and confused is definitely a potion. Achievement goal: make a potion 1. Achievement reward: random potion formula. The energy cubes I made before were not potions? Obviously, a crucible was also used. And this time, it was a collaboration between 2 people, not done independently. Does it count? The extracted potion formula was quite satisfactory to Ethan. BAFE brain refresher. A potion that can increase brain power. Ethan remembered that the effect in the game was to sort out a wrong option in class. But in the real world, increasing brain power means increasing thinking ability, learning ability, memory, etc. During the continuous process, whether it is the casting speed or the ability to learn new spells, there will be a significant improvement. Even if the effect is over, the things you learned and understood during this period are still yours. It can be said to be a very effective potion. The formula is also extremely simple and cheap. Oil and frog brains are enough. Thanks to the Big Brother D.H. Shaway for the monthly ticket. Thank you very much. Episode 39. Harry and Petunia. Walking out of the potion classroom, Harry was like an eggplant hit by frost, wilting. Ethan, I'm sorry, I got you into trouble. Harry felt very embarrassed. Professor Snape was targeting him, but because he couldn't answer, Ethan was targeted. Fortunately, Ethan answered, so no points were deducted. It was just that the little thing between Ethan and Hermione later was deducted, and Harry didn't know if it was his fault. This has nothing to do with you, it's Snape's own problem. There is another saying that is hard to say. This is called the son paying for the father's debt. Who made your father steal someone's childhood sweetheart, and also used the magic invented by Snape to hang Snape himself in public, and exposed his hairy legs and underwear, which can be said to be the shame of his life. I don't know why, when I first met Snape, he was not kind to me, especially today, as if he wanted to dig out my eyes. Harry fell into the emo state and couldn't extricate himself. The professors of all subjects were kind to him, except for this Snape. You can actually go back and ask your aunt about this matter. Ethan made a suggestion. Snape is the freak in the mouth of Harry's Aunt Petunia. Of course, this was when Snape was young, and they definitely didn't meet each other later, but Petunia must know what Snape thinks of Lily. Why would you ask my aunt? Harry couldn't figure it out. His aunt was just an ordinary person, and Snape was a professor at the magic school. The two were from 2 different worlds and had no intersection at all. Since you said that Snape had bad intentions towards you when you first met, then you must not know each other, and he doesn't know you, but he has a grudge against you. Then think about it. Who is this grudge against? Ethan continued to guide and really wanted to know what would happen after Harry knew about Snape in advance. Anyway, this kind of thing is just a small episode and has no impact on the overall situation. With my parents? After thinking about it, Harry could only come to this conclusion. It can be confirmed that his parents are wizards, and they also left him a huge inheritance. If his parents were still alive, they would be about the same age as Snape, and they might even be classmates. If there was hatred, it would be very likely. Is it true? You can ask them when you go back during the holidays. It's just a matter of 1 sentence. People who know the situation in Hogwarts will definitely not tell Harry. Apart from his aunt, Harry has no other choice. You know, my relationship with my aunt is not good. She won't tell me. Harry shook his head. Since he was a child, his aunt's family made him live in the storage room, wear shabby clothes, and do all kinds of housework. They were indifferent to the bullying of his cousin daily. Do you really think so? Harry nodded without hesitation after hearing this. This is the fact. They just don't like him. Harry is young now and doesn't understand a lot, but he will probably understand it later. First of all, you are not your aunt's son. Why should she raise you? Did your family give you money? It takes a lot of money to raise you. Ethan directly pointed out the most realistic problem. Harry, who grew up in the Muggle world, knew some laws, and there was also the issue of orphanages. It is not that his aunt has no rules to raise a nephew. Harry's father is from the wizarding world and has no property in the Muggle world. There is no benefit at all. Even in the Muggle world, there are many cases of people plotting their relatives' property and letting children fend for themselves. Harry has his own room, eats with his family, and can go to the zoo with them, which means that they will not leave Harry behind when they go out to play. This is many times better than an orphanage. Harry's aunt can be said to be a positive representative here. But they are not good to me. Harry has listened to some of it, but for so many years, his uncle's family treated him and Daly differently, which made him difficult to let go for a while. You have talents that they don't have. This is jealousy. You may bring disaster to the family. This is fear. It's strange that they can treat you well under this emotion, but they still care about you and raise you at risk. This should be the case in Ethan's understanding. When Penny was young, her sister showed wizard talent. She was quite envious and wrote to Dumbledore to enroll, but was rejected. At that time, she was quite jealous of Lily, but she still sent Lily to the train station to go to school, which shows that she still has deep feelings for her sister. Later, both parties had families. Knowing that his sister and brother-in-law were dead, Perry knew that the wizarding world was far less safe than the Muggle world. Also, his sister's family had obviously offended people in the wizarding world. If their enemies knew about adopting their children, it would also be a safety hazard, especially after he was exposed to the magic world. The family was not threatened to adopt Harry, but because they learned from a letter that their sister's family had died, Harry had her sister's magic, and Harry, who was still a baby, was already at their doorstep, so they finally decided to adopt him. What should I do? Harry scratched his head and asked in distress. He was a little overwhelmed. His aunt actually cared about him, which simply overturned his previous cognition. Explain clearly, and occasionally send some small gifts back, such as chocolate frogs. Anyway, you are not short of money, but don't do anything related to magic. They can't get in touch with it. Okay, I'll go back and think about it. By the way, Ethan, do you want to go to Hagrid's house this afternoon with me? It's the giant who led us to the station. Okay, I have nothing to do in the afternoon, so I'll go with you. Ethan agreed immediately. This is a great opportunity to see the hidden rich family in Hogwarts. Episode 40, Honest Hagrid. In the afternoon, at almost 3 o'clock, Ethan met Harry Ronald in the lobby and prepared to visit Hagrid together. Crossing the grass, they came to the edge of the Black Lake and walked a little further to Hagrid's cabin. There was a crossbow and a pair of rubber shoes in front of the door. This is it. Hagrid said that he only has one house here. I'll go knock on the door. Arriving at the door, Harry turned around and said to Ethan and Ronald, "Dong, dong, dong." Along with Harry's knocking, Ethan and others clearly heard the sound of objects falling and low dog barking from inside the house. Then a deafening voice came, "Back off, yeah, back off." After waiting for a while, the door finally opened and Hagrid walked out from inside, with messy hair, tangled beard, looking sloppy, and a black hound collar in his hand. "Back off, Fong." As he spoke, he pulled the black dog aside, making way for Ethan and the others. After entering, he realized that there was only one room inside, with hams and pheasants hanging from the ceiling, boiling water in a copper kettle in the brazier, and a large bed in the corner, with bedding made of rags. In addition to these, there was also a white blanket, which looked gray and inconspicuous, but it was made of unicorn hair, and there were some colorful feathers, which should be those of the silent bird and the evil bird if I was not mistaken. As for those huge fangs, Ethan could not see them. Sure enough, he was a hidden rich man in Hogwarts, with a rich family background. In the future, if he got the magical animals that Hagrid was interested in, he could exchange them with Hagrid. "You're welcome, sit anywhere," Hagrid said, and then let Fong go. But as soon as the dog was let go, it pounced at Ethan's feet, whimpering like a pleaser. "This is Ronald Weasley. This is Ethan Adrian." Harry introduced the two to Hagrid. After all, they didn't know each other yet. Hagrid, who was preparing to entertain, turned around and looked at Ronald's red hair and freckled face and said with a headache, I have spent almost half of my life to drive the twin brothers of the Weasley family out of the Forbidden Forest. Really, God knows how much more work he has done since the twins came to school. Ronald's face turned red, and he didn't know what to say. He really knew his twin brother very well. He was definitely the #1 troublemaker. Luckily, Hagrid only mentioned it once and didn't mention it again. Soon, Hagrid prepared the entertainment, rock cakes and hot tea. Harry and Ronald tried their best to bite off some crumbs from the rock cakes, but they still acted like they loved it very much. Although Ethan's physical fitness has been strengthened and his teeth have been strengthened accordingly, he still doesn't want to try the taste of this rock cake. He immediately broke off a piece and secretly fed it to Yaya at his feet. I don't know if Yaya has grown up eating rock cakes anyway. It is quite adapted to eating and it tastes good. Take it when you're done. I still have a lot of rock cakes. You're welcome. When Hagrid found that Ethan was almost finished with the rock cake in his hand, he greeted Ethan very happily. No, I'll be full after eating one. Ethan shook his head and refused. Harry and Ronald on the side naturally knew what was going on, but Yaya didn't go to their side, so even if he wanted to feed the dog, he couldn't. By the way, Hagrid, do you know where to find frogs? Today, I just got the recipe for the Bafe brain refresher, but frog brains are not easy to get, and there will be no frog dishes on the Hogwarts table, otherwise they can cooperate with the cafeteria. Ethan didn't find this in Snape's potion classroom. Ethan, who was trapped in Hogwarts for a while, really didn't know where to find this thing except the Forbidden Forest. As for frogs, there are a lot of them by the pond in the east, but they should be hiding now, unless you dig them out. Hagrid pointed in a direction and said to Ethan, without any intention of hiding anything. Although I didn't know Ethan before, he must be his friend to be introduced by Harry, and Harry's friends are his friends. Is that so? Then, Hagrid, are there any frogs for sale in Hogsmeade? If they are all near the pond, a flying spell can be used to get them, but it is impossible for Ethan to dig frogs now. It is too troublesome, so this road is blocked. There are definitely frogs for sale in Diagon Alley or Nocturne Alley, but unless the boxes are transported here using the Traceless expansion spell, how much can be bought with owls alone, and it is probably not as expensive as the postage. And those 3 idiots dare not leave Nocturne Alley even though they are wanted, otherwise they can transport the frogs to Hogsmeade and give them to me. There are some in Bruce's pet shop, and some of the little things like to eat mice and frogs. Hagrid seemed to remember something and added immediately, you can only go to Hogsmeade in the 3rd grade. You can't go now, so you can't sneak away. If you want frogs, I can bring them back for you. Okay, if I need it, I will ask you for help. Ethan skipped this topic. If Hagrid brings them, the number will not be too large at a time. After all, a large backlog is prone to death. The fresh frog brains needed to make the Bafe brain refresher must not have died for more than an hour. As long as he knew there were frogs in the store, he could clear out the frogs in the store by using the box of the Traceless expansion spell once. Ethan planned to use the Bafe brain refresher not only for himself, but also to sell it for money. Sales would definitely not be a problem, especially for students in grades 5, 6, and 7. Hagrid, is Snape targeting me related to my parents? Harry remembered that Hagrid had been a key keeper at Hogwarts for many years and was friends with his parents. Maybe he knew about this. Isn't Snape like this to all students? Especially when facing Gryffindor. Hagrid avoided Harry's eyes and spoke intermittently. It can only be said that he really doesn't lie. Harry saw that Hagrid was unwilling to say more, so he had to give up. It would be the same when he went back to ask his aunt. However, this also made Harry more certain that something must have happened between Snape and his parents. Then, when Harry saw the news about the robbery of Gringotts on July 31st in the Daily Prophet, he asked Hagrid some questions. Hagrid's deliberate avoidance became more obvious, and he tried to block Harry's mouth with rock biscuits. On the way back, the 3 of them had their pockets full of rock biscuits. Since Hagrid was too enthusiastic, the 3 of them couldn't refuse. But after Harry left Hagrid's hut, he had more questions in his mind. He had to think about Snape and his aunt's family, and now there was the package in Gringotts. He had always suspected that the robber of Gringotts was going to steal the package that Hagrid had taken in advance.